Our next guest is a self-made freedom lifestyle entrepreneur, seasoned investor, and international speaker. Mike Wolf is on the show with us today. More of his story of financial freedom, that and more coming up.
Welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Podcast, your source for real-world strategies focused on creating long-term wealth, cash flow, and financial freedom through real estate. Through guidance, tips, and stories of highly successful real estate investors and thought leaders, we provide you the tools to succeed and to reach the lifestyle you always wanted. And now, your host, Dwaine Clarke.
Hello and welcome to the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. This is your host, Dwaine Clarke, and today we have Mike Wolf with Mike Wolf Mastery. He's been investing in real estate for almost 30 years and been involved in several other entrepreneurial ventures. Mike, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and how you doing, my friend?
I'm great. Thanks so much for having me. Good to be here.
Absolutely. Really looking forward to it. You're in the nice, sunny Mexico, and I mentioned before we started recording, I'm in cold Connecticut, but I'm very blessed to even be anywhere. But like I said, it's nice to kind of hear from you in a nice, warm, sunny area as well. So really appreciate you taking the time in this new year, and looking forward to kind of picking your brain of course, 30 years of experience in real estate and passive income and all that different stuff. For the people who are not familiar with you, can you kind of talk about your journey in real estate, how you got started, and what your current focus is on?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's kind of ironic because a lot of people think that, a lot of people think that I came out of the womb knowing how to do real estate. And ironically, I had not even really a desire to do real estate. It wasn't even on my radar until I discovered it by mistake. So if we go way back to when I was in grade 12, middle of the year, I had no idea what I wanted to do when I grew up. And my parents were always like driving into my head, you got to be a doctor or lawyer, doctor, lawyer. That's all I ever heard. And for those who know me, they know I'm terrified of blood. So the doctor was definitely not going to happen. And so I decided to go down the path of becoming a lawyer and got my first degree. With that came a whole bunch of student loans. And I decided before I go back and rack up more student loans, I thought I'm going to pay these off and then I'll go get my second degree. So I got a job at the phone company because it was my buddy, his mother was a manager there. It was union and it was government run and it paid really well. And while I was there, I actually bought my first principal residence. And my mortgage broker calls me up one day and says, "Hey, Mike, if you want, I get you another mortgage. Your credit's good. You're making good money. If you want to get another property, I can get you another mortgage." And I go, "Well, why would I want another property?" Like that seemed like such a foreign concept to me at the time. Now I wish I get that call every day. But in any case, he said, you buy the home, you put a tenant in there, they pay your mortgage for you. And 25 years from now, you've got a clear title home and that's your retirement. I go, well, that kind of makes sense. And so I had no idea of any due diligence steps back then. I had no idea what I was doing. But I thought, well, if I'm going to own a rental property, it probably makes sense to have one close to home. So I looked for a pretty home that was close to where I lived. And that was my strategy. And fortunately enough, a couple years after I bought that property, I was still at the phone company, by the way. A couple years after I bought that, the market took off. And all of a sudden I was sitting on this equity. And I remember thinking to myself, over the last 2 years, I made this much at the phone company doing something I don't really love. I made this much in real estate, and I don't even know what I'm doing in real estate. So what would happen if I learned how to do this on purpose? And so back then I was in my mid-20s, so I did what any kid in their mid-20s would do. And I promptly told my parents that I'm not living your dream anymore. I'm not going to go get my second degree. And my parents were begging me to go get, have something to fall back on. They wanted me to go back to school. And I burnt the bridge. I quit the job at the phone company because I thought I knew everything there was to know about real estate. And ironically, the next deal after I quit my job went very, very bad. And I lost most of what I made on the first deal because I didn't really have a strategy. I just, happened to get lucky. My timing was good on the first deal. And so I lost most of what I made on the second deal. And then it made me very humble. And instead of being a know-it-all, I decided to seek out other people, get help, and I got my first mentor. And if it weren't for that, I'd be maybe on the show talking about law right now instead of real estate. But thankfully, I had a very big lesson. I think a lot of it was because I didn't want to tell my parents they were right. I should have gone back to get that second degree. So I forced myself to get back up again. But if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be here right now having this conversation.
Absolutely. I noticed when I was kind of watching a lot of videos, you talk about kind of this freedom lifestyle. And I know that you doing this for, I know we probably can go deeper into the story of how you kind of got to what you're doing now. But can you kind of talk about kind of that overall definition of lifestyle freedom and kind of like, the benefits and how people, normal people can achieve that?
Absolutely. To me, that's why we get into this business in the first place. We want to create freedom for ourselves. We want freedom from that job. We want to, make our own time. We want to be where we want to be, with who we want to be with. And unfortunately, one of the problems with real estate is if you're lucky enough to get good at it and you start making some money at it, for most people, it becomes pretty much something that consumes your entire life. And because quite often we have a passion for it, like the people who do well at it, they usually are very passionate about it. And they don't mind working, 12-hour days and 14-hour days. And that's what I used to do back, 15 years ago. That was me. I was a workaholic. And so one of the fortunate things that happened to me is I'm Canadian and I used to invest only in Canada. And then a buddy of mine moved to Las Vegas. He got a really good job there. And I'd go to visit him frequently. And I noticed the prices on the homes kept going up and up and up. And back in those days, a lot of people were moving from Southern California to Nevada to lower their cost of living. And they're doing that again right now, as a matter of fact. But I just saw this amazing opportunity. And what ended up happening is I decided I'm going to start investing in Vegas because the market was just so on fire. But at the end of the month, when it came to collecting rent, I couldn't be two places at the same time. And it forced me to hire my first property manager. That was the first time I ever had somebody on my team. Before that, like most real estate investors, I was a solopreneur. I did everything myself. I was running around all day and being my own property manager, looking for deals. I was doing every part of the job. And this forced me to hire somebody. And I was very reluctant because all of us entrepreneurs were all control freaks. We all think that we can do it better than anybody else can. And what I found out is that, so I was managing my properties in Canada. My property manager was looking after the properties in the US. And I found that he was collecting a lot more rent than I was. And even after I paid him the 10%, I was making a lot more money. So to make a long story short, at first I was micromanaging him to death. This is the sequence that most entrepreneurs go through. They start off as a solopreneur, they hit kind of a brick wall and they can't add any more, they have no more hours to go. And then they reluctantly hire that first person like I did, but then they micromanage them to death and they want to know every little thing that's going on. And I remember I had a policy that my property manager had to let me know anytime somebody was late with rent or if an appliance broke. And I remember there was one week that he called me, it was a Monday, and he goes, "Hey, Mike, the home at 123 Main Street, the fridge is broken." And I said, "Well, let's see what it costs to fix it. And if it's under a certain amount, we'll fix it. Over a certain amount, let's replace it." And then he called me on Thursday with the exact same thing. "Hey, the dishwasher at this other property is broken." And I gave him the exact same spiel. I said, "Hey, if it's under a certain amount, fix it. Over a certain amount, replace it." And when I hung up with him, I thought, man, am I ever dumb? Why am I wasting my time having the same conversation over and over and over again? And not only that, he's collecting more rent than me. So why am I trying to tell, we all think that we have more control if we know everything that's going on. And that was the start of my first system where, every time an appliance breaks, you don't have to call me. Just do this. This is our new policy for that. And what I found is, when I went, you start up as a solopreneur, then you get to the second phase, which is, I call that the micromanager phase. And when you finally give up that control and get the right people on your team and have trust that they know what they're doing, quite often better than you know what you're doing. When you get to that phase, that's where you get your freedom and you get your time back. And so once I started to put some policies in place and saw that he was a lot happier working for me than he was before, getting to use his own brain and his own skill set to do things, I started to replace myself. Like up in Canada, I stopped managing my own properties and I got a property manager there. And then I started to look at all the different parts of my business that didn't require me and started to hire and delegate or automate pretty much everything. And now I've gotten to the point where, I don't really work very hard anymore. Almost everything is done by somebody else. And to give you an idea, I've got a lot of rental properties all over North America now. Other people manage all of them. It takes up almost none of my time. I have a turnkey operation in Atlanta, and we buy homes in bulk from the banks. We fix them, put tenants in place. My property management team looks after it, and I have other people that sell them for me. And to give you an idea, we've sold around 1,100 homes in 9 years. So, but that doesn't require my time. That's my money working for me. It's my teams, my systems. It's not me on the front lines very often. And so I've learned to really scale things without at the same time protecting my time. And that allows me to hang out with my daughter and my grandkids and travel. And as you mentioned, I'm in Mexico uh, for the whole winter, as a matter of fact. And it allows me, I do a lot of volunteering and give back projects because that lights me up and I find it very fulfilling. And so I think when you put the money on autopilot and it comes in pretty much effortlessly, it allows you to do the things that you really should be doing in the first place, like going and making a difference and helping other people. And I think everybody would be, if we didn't have to chase money, we'd probably all be a lot happier and more fulfilled. And so that's some of the stuff that I love teaching people. It's not just the money, but you have to have the money for sure. If you don't have that figured out, the rest of it's not going to work that well. But once you have the money figured out and you can figure out how to get your time back, it's using that time wisely. And that will determine if you're happy or not. Because I know a lot of very wealthy real estate investors. I have a good friend of mine. He's a very successful flipper. But if I go visit him, I can't say, hey, let's go meet for coffee. It's like, hey, Mike, can you come in my car with me while I go drive around the city looking at homes all day? So he's got the money freedom, but he doesn't have the time freedom. He doesn't have the happiness. So I think it's really important to have a balanced life and get that money thing figured out. And I've tried to advise him. He actually loves the hustle. He loves the running around. I think that he's missing out on a lot of stuff. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and that's definitely key. And I always talk to everyone about that. Is like I said, time is the most valuable thing that you can't. That's the one thing you can't get back. And again, you had mentioned regarding all these systems, which is like over the course of 30 years that you've been kind of building and developing and trial and error, and this doesn't work, and to the point where now you have something that's able to create income. You don't have to think about it, and then you can really focus on living in Mexico and spending time with your family, which I believe everyone wants to do. That is just figuring out what is that tool to utilize it. And you had mentioned earlier utilizing kind of turnkey investments. Can you kind of talk a little bit deeper as far as that type of program for people who may be interested in tapping into pre-built systems and how that will work for them?
Absolutely, yeah. So, I mean, I basically designed this. When I first started, all my friends were all negative. Mike, you're not going to be a real estate investor. You're not going to be successful at that. And I was actually very painfully shy. So I was definitely not somebody who, immediately you would think is going to be successful in this business and, be a good negotiator and all that stuff. But I'm one of those people that if you tell me I can't do something, I'm going to show you that you're wrong. So that's one of the reasons why I stuck with this. But I also, once I became successful, a lot of these naysayers started to come to me and say, okay, I know we used to make fun of you and said you weren't going to make it, but now we want to be real estate investors too. How do we do it?
Yeah.
And they thought, over a Starbucks coffee, they take me to Starbucks and I could teach them everything that I knew over a coffee. And so I just basically started, instead of buying 3 properties for myself, I'd buy 5 properties or 6 properties. The 3 would be for me and a couple would be for my friends, and my teams would fix them up. And I get my team to manage it for them. And so it started off as, I started, when I first started investing, it was all for me. And then it became for me and my friends. And then my friends started to tell their friends, and their friends would start to contact me. And then I started buying 10 properties and 15 properties. And then I started to get asked a lot of the same questions over and over and over again. And then I decided I'm going to make a bunch of videos, put them on YouTube. So whenever somebody asks me that same question, I'll send them a link and I'll answer their question. When I started to do that, I started to get people literally from all over the planet following me. And we've sold properties to clients from probably 25 different countries. But basically how it works is, we've already bought the homes. We buy them in bulk from the banks. So we're getting a good deal on them. We inspect every single property. We fix every single thing on the inspection. We make these homes better than new. And then one of the things that we do that's a little different is the tenants that move into these properties, they're signing 2 contracts. They're signing a 3-year lease. So we're not doing 6-month and 1-year leases. We're doing 3-year leases. And then we're giving them an option to purchase. And so if the homes start around $70,000, by the way. So I know in Connecticut, that doesn't get you a shed, nor does it in a lot of markets. In Atlanta, that actually gets you a single family home and not a bad neighborhood. But they start around 70,000. But let's use really round, easy numbers. If an investor buys a property for 100,000, usually the tenant that is living in your property will have an option to purchase that for 50% more. So they have 3 years to close on that, and they're going to pay 150,000. But the property's cash flow really nicely while you're waiting for that to happen. But the reason we do lease option, the reason we do the lease options is one, it really brings down the vacancy rate. Because as you probably know, I mean, every time somebody moves out, you're paying to clean at the very least. Often you're replacing carpets and you're repainting, and that eats up a lot of your profits. So this is a great way to solve that problem, keeps the vacancy low. And then if somebody's planning on buying your property, they're going to take much better care of it than if they're your typical renter. And so, so this is all managed for my clients. We deal with everything for you. You're buying a home that looks pretty much brand new, sometimes better than new, because we upgrade them to be nice. It's quite often nicer than how the builder, the builder grade stuff that was in there. Because we want people to, if we're trying to get somebody who wants to stay in a home for 3 years and wants to buy it, it can't look like a rental property. And so basically in a nutshell, that's what you're buying. You're buying an already fixed home, already fixed, it's already fixed. There's already a tenant. There's already somebody looking after it for you. And there's really, it's really the answer for busy people that are already busy, because everybody should invest in real estate, but not everybody should be doing it how you and I do it, on the front lines looking for deals. If you're a doctor and your passion is medicine, you probably don't want to shut down your practice to go and find properties all day and deal with building teams. That's probably not your forte. So you still need to be invested in real estate. You need to get that passive income, or else as soon as you stop being a doctor, as soon as you close down your practice, or if you get sick, money stops coming in. But with passive income, it keeps coming in no matter what you're doing. And so we're the solution for that. And we've been in Atlanta now for about 9 years, and it's been we sold around 1,100 homes. But before that, we were doing similar project in Phoenix and Vegas. We've done stuff in Florida. So it's definitely not our first rodeo. So we have a pretty good handle on what we're doing.
Yeah, I kind of like that, because like I said, if you mentioned kind of the doctor or any working professional, they kind of can wrap their head around, buying a property that's, with existing cash flow, or the long-term lease with them, a possible exit strategy at the end. I like that a lot. And it's also, in Atlanta, in that whole the state of Georgia, landlord friendly state, a lot of nice economic, fundamentals there. So people can be like, that's a really good investing state, especially as we're heading into 2021, or people kind of scrambling to see, where is kind of the best investments. And, he was looking at these different marketplaces, and you guys have experience in working in all these different markets, and, seeing what works and what doesn't work. Can you kind of talk about just kind of some examples of some of the people that maybe in the United States or all over, when they just first give you a call and say, hey, I want to do an investment property? What's kind of like the steps? Can you kind of walk us through kind of the steps for them, and all the way through closing, to kind of give people an example of what they can expect?
Yeah, well, once again, I've become really good at, as I mentioned, delegating and automating. So the first step is I direct them to a webinar that explains the process in detail, because we do things a lot differently than most other turnkey providers, especially, the lease options. We put a 1-year warranty on the homes. There's a lot of things that we do different. And instead of me having that same hour-long conversation with each person, I give them the webinar. And then after that, I get on a call with them and I answer all their questions and direct them towards the next step. So the great news is, that anybody can do this from anywhere in the world. Like I said, we've worked with people from all over the world. Anybody can invest. Americans have the nice advantage that they can finance these properties. If you have, at least moderately good credit, you can put 20% down. And of course, interest rates are super low right now, so that'll actually help bring up your returns on investment. And the other thing that I forgot to mention, if you don't buy and hold real estate, you're paying way too much in tax. A lot of the richest people on this planet, if you look at Warren Buffett, for example, multi-billionaire, he owns real estate. He didn't make his money in real estate initially. He made his, he's a stock guy. That's what he's known for. But his accountants tell him, hey, well, if you want to keep more of what you're making, you need to buy real estate. And when you hold real estate, you get to depreciate it. So especially if you're a doctor, lawyer, engineer, if you're making really good money and that tax bill at the end of the year is looking very high, you absolutely need to own some real estate, because you can, and I'm not an accountant, so disclaimer, I'm not an accountant, so talk to your accountant, but you can use real estate to pay very little tax. So if you look at, and I'm not political, I'm Canadian, so I'm not even involved in your politics, but Donald Trump, I think he said he paid $750 in taxes last year. And the reason he got to pay $750 in taxes last year is because of his real estate.
Exactly.
So what I do is I don't reinvent the wheel. I don't need to go and try to figure this out. If I see very wealthy people doing a certain strategy, I'm going to emulate that because they've hired the brightest and the best accountants and lawyers and people that most of us can't afford to hire and have on our team. And so I'm going to copy what they're doing. And so, you need to own real estate. If you're paying too much tax, start buying some buy and hold properties, and that will, where else do you get an investment that goes up in value, gives you cash flow, and you get a tax benefit for doing it? I mean, it's just a no-brainer. So
Exactly.
if anybody wants to talk to me about that, I'm happy to jump on a call with them and explain how that works. But
Yeah, and we'll
talk
definitely make sure to
about the
have all
things-
that information to get in contact with you in the show notes and all that stuff. But before we get there, I was kind of really interested in kind of like your day to day, and so people can kind of see what other successful person does. So you can kind of take us through like a typical work day for you, and do you have any special morning routines?
Yeah, well, first of all, I usually work an hour to two every day. This year, it's been COVID kind of created a little bit of a different year for me. I kind of came out of semi-retirement because I was starting to get all these calls from podcasters like yourself, radio shows, summits, people putting on events over Zoom, and everybody wants to know what's happening with the economy and real estate. And so I've been getting tons and tons of calls. One person called me up, and she runs a 3-day summit on wealth creation, but she's not a real estate expert. So she brought me on to talk real estate, and I was supposed to talk for 45 minutes. And anyway, her people had so many questions about real estate that she said, "Hey, Mike, can you do like another day-long event for my people?" And then she's talking to doing a 3-day event for her people. Now she's talking to doing a year-long group coaching program over Zoom, which I'm loving, but I have never done a year-long. Normally, prior to this, I would literally do a 3-day training live. I would teach people how to do tax liens and deeds, for example. I take them to Houston, Texas, which is my favorite place to do that strategy. We spend 4 days together, and then I get on an airplane and go back to my normally scheduled life of travel and volunteering and hanging out with my family. So this year I'm doing a year-long group coaching program, so I'm working harder than normal. But normally I work an hour to two a day. It's usually answering emails and making some phone calls. My teams do almost everything else for me. Part of it is, talking to my marketing people, and there's a few people on the team that I talk to regularly. Here's an important point. As you build your teams, by the way, don't have everybody reporting to you, because that will become a full-time job. So I report to, there's 2 or 3 people that report to me. I actually report to them, especially my marketing person. She's always saying, "Did you make that video yet? Did you make that?" So they boss me around. But normally I work an hour to two a day, and the rest of it, I divide my time between, I like to do a lot of give back projects. So, after Hurricane Katrina, I built a team. We fixed up a bunch of homes in New Orleans and brought a bunch of people back to that city. I've spent time in orphanages. I love children and animals. So I do a lot of projects around that because both children and animals don't have a voice. I brought water filters to places that didn't have clean drinking water. So I love to do that because to me, my life now is all about, as I mentioned, happiness and fulfillment. The money is coming in. I'm not even paying attention. I'm not worried about the money. So those are the things that light me up. As far as a morning routine, one of the things that I do first thing when I wake up is I think about the things that I'm grateful for and actually jot them down. And, one of the great things that has happened from traveling the world, I've been to about 75 countries now. And when you go to a place that doesn't have clean drinking water, for example, you bring them water filters. When you get back and you turn on a tap and magically water appears, you have a lot to be grateful for. So I know a lot of people right now, they're down, and this COVID thing is making you, it's changing your life in a big way potentially. But we have so much. If you have the ability to watch this right now, you have it better than 90% of people on the planet. So to me, gratitude is one of the most important things. And I think when you're grateful for the things that you have, the universe keeps sending you more stuff. And if you're complaining, "Oh, I don't have this," and you're talking about all things that you want, but you're not grateful for the things that you already have, and maybe I'm getting a little bit too woo-woo for a real estate show, but I think that gratitude is one of the keys to getting to that next level, and just being grateful for where you're at and grateful for whatever opportunities that come your way, even if you're not exactly where you want to be yet. So that's a big thing for me. I've tried to meditate, and my friends that do that, they all swear by it. I've tried to. I always either fall asleep or I can't really shut off the wheels that are turning, but I recommend that for most people if you can do that, because my friends that do it, it's very beneficial to them. Usually I like to read a little bit every morning, start off my day just learning, and that's before I open up my emails and look at my phone and all that stuff, because once you turn that on, you're going to get taken in all kinds of different directions. And now you're on
Yeah.
other people's agendas. So do your stuff first. I used to work out a lot more. I've been having a bit of a knee issue, but I recommend that if you have the opportunity to work out first thing in the morning, because I think that clears your mind as well. It's not just good for your body, but it's good for your mind. But the big thing to me, the single biggest thing for me is just gratitude. Just looking at all the things that make me happy. And it's not usually material things. I don't usually think, oh, I'm glad I'm staying at this hotel. I'm not. Those aren't the things I'm talking about. It's just simple things like healthy family and clean drinking water and my friends and things like that. And even if you put the same things every single day, I think just tracking that and paying attention to that and putting it on your radar, awesome things are going to start to happen. You'll see what I mean if you do it.
Oh yeah, totally agree with that. Absolutely. And like I said, a testament, like I said, with the meditation and the daily gratitude. I have a little 5-minute journal and just kind of jot everything down and kind of concentrate my notes and just kind of, like I said, just you even think about it. Some place in the world they don't have clean water, and like it's some people we take it for granted.
So fortunate. They're so fortunate.
Exactly,
so
exactly.
Water's one, but like I said, anybody who's watching this right now, just think about if this pandemic would have happened before the days of Zoom, before Netflix. I can't even imagine. We'd be we'd be even a bigger mess.
Exactly.
So,
Absolutely.
Although I personally believe the planet's, we're having a bit of a reset right now, and I think some great things are going to come from this too. And for me, it gave me one of the things I'm grateful for. It gave me extra bandwidth to have this extra time to go and create stuff to help people that are going through financial difficulty right now. So, so great. I think some great things are happening too, and a lot of people are just focusing on all that negative stuff that we're bombarded with from the media, and they're not talking about all the good stuff that's happening on this amazing planet.
Exactly. Well, I'm glad we're doing this stuff and talking about positive stuff, and people will eventually listen to this and get motivated and take action, and then result of changing other people's lives. So I appreciate you sharing that with us. And you had mentioned with your team, you have all these systems in place. Can you kind of mention like one or two kind of electronic systems or your manual system that you use to kind of keep you guys more productive?
Yeah, well, I mean, when it comes to our marketing, for example, we're using ClickFunnels, and it allows us to keep track of, I have quite a few followers that I've built up over the years, and it allows us to effectively keep in touch with them and get, stay in front of them and help them. So I love technology. I'm not good at it, but my team is. And so that's one of them. The great thing is that, like right now I have, like for example, in Atlanta, those turnkey properties I mentioned, it takes up very little of my time. The reason it takes up very little of my time is I have somebody I have boots on the ground, and they oversee everything. And so it's not just automation, but it's also delegation. So I have people that absolutely love, running around and looking at real estate all day. If I had to do that, I mean, back in the old days, I used to love that. It used to light me up, and I was very passionate about it. It was fun. But now that's taken away from my time with my grandkids. I don't want to be not hanging out with my grandkids or volunteering or traveling while I'm looking at homes all day. So I have people on the ground that are doing that, and other people that they're reporting to. So I've taken myself out of the equation wherever possible. And sometimes it's automation. Most of the automation I can't really explain to you, because I have my main marketing person. She's in Frankfurt, Germany, and she oversees a whole team of people in the Philippines and India. And so, I talk to her usually once a day in the morning, and she makes all this magic happen with technology and by delegating to other people with their technology. And so, but a lot of it is delegation as well. And it just comes down to having really good people on your teams. And I know a lot of you are thinking, oh, like it's going to take forever to build an amazing team. Right now, we live in the best age to be a real estate investor. There's so much information online. We can get reviews about other people. We can connect with other investors and share. And I also find that A players only hang out with A players. Like somebody who's an amazing property manager, they're not going to send you a crappy contractor. They're hanging out with people that are reputable and reliable, that are going to do a good job. And so sometimes you just have to find one key person for your team, and they already come with the rest of the team all attached to that. And so we live in great times. It's so easy now to delegate compared to when I first started. And it was like a lot of trial and error, and mistakes, of course, are very expensive in this business. But I went through a lot of people. These days, it's so much easier than it used to be. So anybody who's thinking of delegating, you can go on Fiverr, Fiverr.com, and hire people overseas to do just about anything, whether it be helping you make a logo or making phone calls all day long to build your buyers list or find motivated sellers. You can delegate all this stuff. It doesn't have to be you. And of course, right in the United States, there's so many people right now, unfortunately, out of work. How many stay-at-home moms or people that are hunkered down at home, they love to have something to keep them busy. So, delegate right in your own country as well. And it's a few more dollars, but I think it's also good to employ, your friends and your neighbors. And if they're struggling, give them some work right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, very well said. I appreciate that. And as far as you mentioned, you have a webinar, information on your YouTube and all that stuff. And we'll make sure to share all those links. But what's the best way to get in contact with you?
Yeah, best way to get in touch with me is you can email me at info@mikewolfmastery.com. That's info@mikewolfmastery, and wolf is just like the animal. And just tell me that you saw me on Dwaine Clarke's show. And I'll be happy to send you all the resources, but also get Dwaine the link so he can post them. But yeah, feel free to reach out, and I read all my emails personally and answer them personally. I shouldn't say all of them. Anything to do with, the type of people that be watching your show, I answer personally. So more than happy to help anybody who's getting started. I've got free ebooks. I've got a lot of resources for people that are maybe either stuck or they're looking to get started. And I actually wrote an ebook on the top strategies to do right now during COVID times, even if you have no money. When I started 31 years ago, I was aspiring to get to no money because I had all those student loans. And so I've learned to become very resourceful and do deals with very little resources. And so if you have lots of money, awesome. Then you can, add steroids to these strategies. But if you are, maybe you just got laid off and you're reinventing yourself right now, this is stuff you can do right from home with little or no cash, and it's absolutely free. And that's actually at my website, mikewolfmastery.com.
Awesome. Mike, it was a pleasure to speak with you. Like I said, from the sunny area of Mexico, all best to you in this year, and good luck to you. All the best to you and your family, and we'll look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thanks so much, Dwaine. It's been a pleasure to be here, and reach out anytime if you ever need anything.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, my friend. Take care.
Thank you too.
Hey there, this is Dwaine Clarke, your host of the Wealth Through Real Estate Investing Show. I want to thank you again for tuning in and hope you're enjoying this valuable content. While I got you for a quick minute, I wanted to send you an invitation to join our growing investor community. It's called the Passive Investors Club. It's a group of like-minded individuals like you who are seeking financial freedom and to build true wealth through passive investing in commercial real estate. We take a totally different approach to investing that is opposite, that is pushed by the financial advisors and what we see in the mainstream media. We like to invest in real assets that we can touch and understand and that are not subject to the wild swings of the financial markets. We don't want to be part of the herd who pursues the traditional route, leaving our financial future to Wall Street. So if you're interested in joining our group and to sharing resources and opportunities, then go to passiveinvestorsclub.com/join. Joining the club is completely free and there's no obligation. And all our members receive our free Passive Investors course along with tons of resources and content. So again, passiveinvestorsclub.com/join.